All right, let's dive into one of the biggest mysteries in all of science, the Standard Model of particle physics. You know, that beautiful yet kind of weird theory of everything? Well, almost everything. The big question is it just some cosmic accident, a random set of rules we happen to live with, or is it the only possible answer?
I mean, really think about that for a second. Why this set of particles? Why these specific forces holding everything together? Did someone just roll the dice when the universe began and this is what we got? Or is there some deep, hidden logic that means our reality had to turn out exactly this way?
You see, for the longest time, the Standard Model has felt less like an elegant, fundamental law and more like a weird shopping list. It's just a catalog of parts that seem to work, but nobody really knows why those specific parts were chosen. And let me tell you, it's a pretty strange list of ingredients.
I mean, just look at the matter particles alone, the fermions. You've got your quarks and your leptons, and not just one set, but 3 whole generations of them. Now, the crazy part is, everything we see and interact with, you, me, the stars, it's all made from that first generation. The other 2 are basically just heavier, unstable copies. So why have them? Why 3? It's been one of the biggest head-scratchers for decades.
And it gets so much weirder. Take a look at the electric charge of some of the quarks, like the up quark. It's positive 2/3. Seriously, not a nice clean +1, but 2/3? Where does a bizarre fraction like that even come from in the fundamental code of the universe?
And right next to it, you've got the down quark, with a charge of -1/3. Again, another weird fraction. It honestly feels like someone just scribbled these numbers down without any rhyme or reason.
So that's the heart of the mystery, right? Are these numbers, these 3 generations, are they just cosmic typos? Is it all a fluke? Or is there a deeper logic hiding underneath it all, a logic that we've been completely missing? Well, it turns out the Standard Model itself has been trying to tell us that it's not the whole story. It's kind of like a good detective novel. The theory leaves behind its own clues, its own warnings that point to a much deeper truth.
Physicists have found these little cracks in the foundation of the theory, things with scary names like UV divergences, which is basically where the math breaks down and explodes to infinity, or running couplings, which means the fundamental forces actually change their strength depending on how you look at them. And then you have these tiny mathematical imbalances called anomalies that threaten to make the whole theory just fall apart. These aren't bugs, they're features, signposts telling us to dig deeper.
All these clues point to a powerful idea, that the Standard Model is what's called an emergent theory. Now, what does that mean? It means it's not the bedrock of reality. It's not the fundamental blueprint. Instead, it's the result, the consequence of an even more fundamental set of rules. Maybe rules about what's logically consistent and what's not.
And this leads us to a game-changing idea. What if the rules of our universe aren't arbitrary at all? What if they were all forced into existence by one simple, overarching demand, that the whole system has to be mathematically consistent?
This quote from our source material just nails it. The Standard Model isn't a random catalog of parts you can pick and choose from. It's the one unique answer you get when you ask a very strict question about what kind of universe can even exist without breaking its own rules. So think about it like this. The old way of thinking was like building the universe from a random box of Legos. But this new idea, it suggests the shape of every single Lego piece and how they connect was predetermined from the start. The whole structure is an inevitable consequence of the system's own logic.
Okay, so that's a pretty big claim. If this consistency is king idea is right, it should be able to solve those puzzles we started with, right? Well, let's find out, because this is where it gets really, really cool.
Let's go right back to our first mystery, those totally bizarre fractional charges. Why on earth would they be positive 2/3 and negative 1/3?
So inside any quantum theory like this one, you have these potential mathematical tripwires called anomalies. And if these anomalies don't all add up and cancel each other out to exactly 0, the whole theory becomes nonsense. It literally cannot describe a possible universe.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. The charges of +2/3 and -1/3, when you put them together with all the other particles, are the one and only combination of numbers that makes all those dangerous anomalies perfectly vanish. They aren't random. They are a mathematical necessity for our universe to even exist. Mind-blowing, right?
Okay, what about the next puzzle? The strong force that holds quarks together comes in 3 colors, red, green, and blue. Why 3? Why not 2, or 4, or 17?
Well, it turns out there's another, even deeper consistency check hiding in the theory. And its demand is surprisingly simple. For the math to work, The number of quark colors has to be an odd number, period. So, if the number has to be odd, what's the simplest possible choice that isn't trivial? Well, it's not 1, it's 3. It seems the universe just picks the most straightforward, minimal path that the laws of logic allow.
And now for the big one. Those 3 generations of matter. We only need the first one for life as we know it. So what are the other 2 even doing here?
Oh, this is just beautiful. It turns out the number of generations is squeezed from 2 different directions by these consistency rules. On one side, to explain why there's more matter than antimatter in the universe, you need at least 3 generations. But on the other side, to make sure the strong force behaves itself, you can have no more than 5. So the universe is trapped in this tiny window between 3 and 5. And again, what's the simplest, most elegant choice? 3.
So, let's just take a breath and think about what this all means. It means the universe we see around us isn't just one lucky roll of the dice out of trillions of possibilities. No, many of its most fundamental features seem to be forced. They're the inevitable conclusions of the universe's own internal logic. And this way of thinking makes some incredible predictions. For example, a lot of other big theories predict that protons, the things at the heart of every atom, should eventually decay. We have spent decades running experiments to look for this, and we found nothing. Well, guess what? This consistency model strictly forbids it. The way the pieces are forced to fit together, there's just no way for a proton to fall apart. It fits what we actually see in the real world perfectly.
So, the big takeaway here is this. Just demanding that the universe be logically consistent with itself can explain so much of the weirdness. It explains the integers, like why we have 3 colors and 3 generations. It explains the zeros, like why the photon has no mass. And it explains the forbiddens, like why protons don't seem to decay. These aren't just a random collection of facts anymore. They're all consequences of the same deep underlying logic.
And that leaves us with one last, truly awe-inspiring thought. If the very building blocks of our universe, the particles and the forces, aren't random accidents, but are logical necessities, what else about our reality is the same? What other parts of our existence are not just a choice, but an inevitable conclusion written into the rules of the cosmos from the very beginning?